My husband's best friend bet him. I'd cry when they served me divorce papers at Christmas dinner. Women are so predictable, he laughed. I signed immediately, then handed them a wrapped present. Their faces dropped when they opened it. Update 5 Me. I started buying lavender soap again. I painted the nursery soft sage green, a color he once called pointless. I hung tiny string lights around the window, and placed a stuffed giraffe in the corner. I started lighting candles after dinner and drinking herbal tea in the sunroom barefoot, unbothered. One evening I caught myself humming while folding laundry, something I hadn't done since my second anniversary. I bought new bed sheets, white with tiny gold stars, and slept diagonally across the mattress because I could. One afternoon I passed Brandon on the street. He was coming out of a bank, talking into his phone, looking irritated. He didn't notice me, or maybe he did, but didn't know what to say. I kept walking. Later Jenny sent me a screenshot. Brandon's firm had removed his name from the quarterly newsletter. I replied with a single thumbs up emoji. Then I made tea and watched the wind dance through the curtains. It wasn't about revenge anymore. Not really. It was about small things, freedom, peace, a slow steady rebuild of a life that belonged to me, and the quiet realization that the woman he tried to break was now the one who had rebuilt everything without him. The first time I felt her kick, I was standing barefoot in the kitchen, humming along to an old Nina Simone record while slicing peaches for a pie. It was so soft at first, I thought I imagined it, a flutter like a wing brushing the inside of my belly. Then it came again. I dropped the knife. Both hands flew to my stomach, and I stood there stunned and smiling, tears catching me off guard. It wasn't just a kick, it was a reminder, a rhythm, a message. You're not alone. He was real, growing strong, and so was I. That night I wrote in my journal for the first time in weeks. I kept the entry short but deliberate. This baby will never hear yelling through a door, never feel like they're walking on glass, never confuse fear for love. I underlined the last line twice. My world had gotten smaller but warmer, softer in all the right places. My cousin Elena moved into the guest room during my second trimester. She arrived with 2 suitcases, and a basket of homemade lavender muffins, wearing her usual oversized hoodie, and the same gold hoops she'd worn since college. "I'm not letting you do this alone," she said. "And anyway, you need someone to stop you from eating pickles and ice cream together." We fell into a rhythm almost immediately. She worked remotely from the kitchen table, wore fuzzy socks in July, and didn't ask about Brandon unless I brought him up, which I rarely did. That part of the story was no longer worth repeating. Jenny dropped by every few days with groceries and warm casseroles, and baby name books with silly post-it notes inside. Page 37. Do not name her Tiffany. Not because it's a bad name, she explained once, laughing over tea, just because I had a Tiffany in middle school who cut my hair with safety scissors during art class. We laughed more in those months than I had in years. We didn't talk about court filings or lawyers, or any of the old wounds Brandon left behind. We talked about recipes, crib colors, what kind of stroller folded easiest, and whether her ex was secretly stalking her Pinterest boards. It was the first time in a long time that silence wasn't something I feared, but something I shared. The baby's room took shape slowly. I painted the walls soft yellow and filled it with thrifted furniture I refinished myself, one coat of warm paint at a time. A rocking chair arrived in a giant box, and Elena spent 3 hours trying to assemble it before throwing down the instructions and declaring, "This is your villain origin story." We laughed until our faces hurt. One quiet Sunday I pulled a box from the back of the hallway closet. I knew what it was the moment I touched it. The slight crackle of the satin ribbon, the faint scent of cedar clinging to the edges. Our wedding photos. I sat on the living room floor and opened the lid. There we were, frozen smiles and vows wrapped in white lace, his hands around my waist, my eyes full of dreams that had since burned to ash. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch. I slid each photo into a separate envelope, and labeled the box to release. Then I drove to the donation center, handed it over without ceremony, and walked away lighter. I stopped at a bookstore on the way home, bought a blank journal with a leather cover and thick ivory pages. That night, I titled the first page "Plans That Are Only Mine." I wrote in it every evening. Some entries were long, some just a single word, but every one of them belonged to me. By the time Christmas came around again, the air inside the house smelled like cinnamon and pine instead of tension. The dining table was smaller, cozier. No theatrical centerpieces, no wine glasses used as weapons of charm. There was laughter, real laughter, the kind that bubbles up without effort. Beth brought her toddler who kept dropping mashed potatoes on the floor and yelling, "Oh," with the pride of a magician pulling off a trick. My dad carved the turkey while Elena tried and failed to make vegan gravy. Jenny brought a date, her first in a year, and I didn't feel envious. I felt full. And next to my sister's son, sat a brand new high chair, white with little yellow stars, holding the love of my life, my daughter. She had his eyes, maybe, but the rest, oh mine. Her cheeks were full and pink from the cold. Her tiny fingers gripped the edge of her tray while she babbled nonsense like it was the most important speech ever given. I didn't spend the evening watching the door. I wasn't checking my tone. I didn't rehearse answers in my head, or wonder if someone's compliment might trigger a jab. I was present. Every bite of food, every shared glance, every story told between courses felt like a celebration. Not of survival, but of something new. After dinner, I curled into the armchair by the fireplace, my daughter asleep on my chest, her tiny breaths warming the fabric of my sweater. Everyone else had drifted to the kitchen, or gone out for a late walk, but I stayed behind, holding her, surrounded by the kind of peace that used to feel fictional. I took a sip of my cocoa, and whispered to her softly, "He said, I'd be nothing without him." She stirred slightly, her fingers curling. I kissed her forehead and smiled. "Turns out," I murmured, "I'm everything without him." If this story of calm power and perfect timing gave you chills, hit that like button right now. My favorite part was when she slid that gold-wrapped box across the table. What was your favorite moment? Tell me in the comments below.